Okay, grab your coffee because today we are discussing probably one of the most fascinating pop culture conspiracies I've ever heard. As you know, I'm going to be doing 3 different segments on this podcast: Hollywood true crime, pop culture conspiracies, and celebrity deep dives. And I couldn't think of a better conspiracy to kick this off with than this one. Today, I'll be breaking down the Poltergeist Curse. For those who don't know, the 1982 epic scary movie Poltergeist had a lot of mishaps surrounding it, leading people to believe it carried a dark, negative energy. But before we get into it, let's talk about what a poltergeist is and the actual film itself. So I might be preaching to those who are interested in the paranormal, but the word poltergeist is a Greek term that translates to loud spirit. It's said that poltergeist activity is when a spirit makes itself known to those it's haunting. Though many researchers have tried to disprove the existence of poltergeist by chalking it up to naughty little girl theory, this theory basically states that a person or child who wants to create mischief to gain attention is the actual source of a haunting. Therefore, the spirit doesn't really exist. Psychical researcher Frank Podmore proposed this theory and says in the typical poltergeist outbreak, small objects are hurled through the air by unseen forces, furniture is overturned, and other disturbances occur, usually just what could be accomplished by a juvenile trickster determined to plague adults. It's also said that people fall for this due to illusion, memory lapse, and wishful thinking, even hallucination. There are also other explanations for this paranormal activity. Researcher Guy William Lambert believes that the activity is due to underground water causing stress on a house or a structure. He believed that this could be causing odd noises or movements in the house. Today, we would chalk this up to the house settling. The house is old, it's just settling. Others, like Alan Godd and Tony Connell, tested this and found that yes, objects might move a very short distance from a house being old and settling, but they're not capable of being thrown, which proves this hypothesis false. This is what skeptics believe, obviously. But those who believe in ghosts and the paranormal give credibility to poltergeist activity. Parapsychologists Nander Fodder and William G. Roll believe this poltergeist activity is directly related to psychokinesis, in other words, possession or attachment to a place or a thing. While the belief of poltergeist and spirits may have us divided, one thing many of us can agree on is that we love a good scary movie. And legendary writer Stephen Speilburg knew this, which is why he created the horror film in 1982. He was unable to direct the movie due to a contract conflict, but he hired Tobe Hooper, who directed Texas Chainsaw Massacre, to fill in his spot. The basic plot of the movie, it's about a family who moves into a new home that's haunted and a ghost abducts their child. Because of these two genius minds, the movie was the 8th highest grossing film of the year, earning $76 million in the US and has been deemed a classic horror film ever since. It was nominated for 3 Academy Awards, was ranked 80 on Bravo's 100 Scariest Movie Moments, was awarded the 20th scariest film ever made by Chicago Film Critics Association, and was ranked 84th in the American Film Institute's 100 Years, 100 Thrills list of most heart-pounding movies. The film depicts the poltergeist breaking glass, bending silverware, and moving furniture. It also has iconic scenes like falling into a pit of dead bodies and being attacked by a killer clown doll. But while the film is spooky enough, what happened behind the scenes and what followed its release might be even scarier. The film did seem cursed, even while filming. During its shoot and shortly after its release, 4 cast members died under suspicious circumstances, one of which was the main character. Heather O'Rourke was the 6-year-old who played the child that would soon be abducted and delivered the iconic TV static scene. She was misdiagnosed with Crohn's disease. Doctors believe that she had the flu, and in 1988 she suffered cardiac arrest. She passed away when she was just 12 years old. Heather's older sister in the film was played by Dominique Dunne, who also passed away very tragically. The year of the film's release, Dominique had broken up with her boyfriend John Sweeney. The day before Halloween, he showed up at her door begging for her back. And she refused, so he became enraged. He jumped on her and strangled her, knocking her unconscious. She did survive the attack, but was placed in a coma, and was later found on her driveway. Unfortunately, she never regained consciousness, and just 5 days later, she was pronounced dead. John Sweeney was only sentenced to 6.5 years in prison for the killing, and he served less than 4 years, which is honestly disgusting. 2 other cast members met a sad fate following the release. Julian Beck, who played the evil preacher, was diagnosed with stomach cancer and passed away shortly after the release of the second film. And Will Sampson, who played the shaman, had a serious health issue that affected his heart and lungs. He underwent a heart and lung transplant, but in 1987 he passed away due to kidney failure. Other cast members passed away or had very close calls with death after filming, but still in suspicious circumstances. For example, Richard Lawson, who played Ryan, was aboard Flight 405 when it crashed in March of 1992. The plane crashed into Flushing Bay, and it had 51 people on board, 27 of which were killed in the accident. Lawson, fortunately, was not one of them, but many say that this was related to the curse. Later on April 1st in 2009, Lou Perryman, who played Pugsley, was murdered by a recently released ex-convict. His name was Seth Christopher Tatum. He was on the run and broke into his home and ended up killing him with an axe. He claimed the motive for the murder was wanting to steal Perryman's car, and he also said he stopped taking his bipolar medication shortly before the incident. He did plead guilty and was sentenced to life in prison. For a while, there were rumors that Oliver Robbins, who played the little brother, had died in a car accident or was strangled by the mechanical clown. Though there may be some truth to the latter, Oliver is still alive, and I saw that this clown theory might be correct because he said that there was actually paranormal activity happening on set in all 3 movies. Director Gil Keenan of the 3rd movie in 2015 said, quote, "Lights that could turn on anywhere else in the neighborhood would blow out the second you try to light them up on set. Also, I used a lot of aerial drone photography in the film, and the drone pilots were never able to lock in the GPS signal in the field. We would have to move 10 feet away to launch the craft, and the house that I rented during filming was straight up legit haunted by a female spirit dressed in black. And I became aware of her within the first few days after staying in the house. Only after I left did I receive a call from the previous owner who had moved back in, who was terrified by the ongoings in the house and wanting to see if I had any experiences of it while I was staying there. So it was an incredible real-life inspiration for the film that followed me home. And while the cast's death are probably the most well-known of all of the suspicious things that happened surrounding this movie, there are definitely plenty more. Another extremely odd and traumatizing fact about the movie is that Spielberg wanted everything to be as real as possible. The premise of the haunting in the film is that the house was built on an ancient burial ground. That's why when you see the scene in the movie of the family falling into a pit of bodies, it all makes sense. But what many don't know is that their screams were very real. JoBeth Williams, who played the mom, said that the skeletons you see in the film were actually human bones. This was done not only to make the scene more believable, but honestly because it was a lot cheaper at the time to buy a human skeleton rather than a prop. And though her claims have never been proven, they've never really been denied, especially by Spielberg. Now, you might believe that events on set helped, and some believe that events happening on set helped the curse or haunting evolve. Sampson, the actor who passed away from the heart-lung transplant, was said to have performed an authentic exorcism after shooting was finished one night. It's said that he performed this after voicing concerns about using these real human skeletons. And between the exorcism, the deaths, and the skeletons, there were definitely reports of paranormal activity happening on set. As I mentioned before, Oliver Robin was attacked on set by a mechanical clown, that's true. In the iconic scene where he was choked by the clown, there were apparently a malfunction that happened and the toy kept a hold of him. But because he was meant to react in fear, it's said that the cast thought he was just acting until he started turning blue. Of course, they did intervene at this point, but this experience encouraged him to be part of a documentary about the deaths connected with the films. Along with the crazy clowns, JoBeth, the mother in the film, says that she felt odd and nervous after the exorcism was performed. She also believes that a bad energy followed her from set home because she would return home from work and see pictures tilted, and after fixing them, she'd wake up to them being tilted again. Though this curse is believed by many fans of the film, some that are close to the film are skeptical. Like Craig Reardon, a special effects makeup artist, he disagrees with these claims. Reardon says he found it offensive to the victims that people are using the curse to explain their deaths. He also says the skeletons can't be the root of the so-called curse because at the time it was actually very common practice in horror production. Films you know and probably love, like House on Haunted Hill and Frankenstein, did the same thing without summoning up any type of curse. Gary Sherman, a director of the third movie, also agrees. He says, quote, "It's possible if I had to do this all over again, that I probably wouldn't have made the movie, but I don't think it had anything to do with a curse. I think people are always fascinated by the unknown. The fact that some people wanted to connect that with poltergeist and skeletons, to each his own." Unquote. Now, whether you're a skeptic or a believer, you have to admit, this honestly makes for a great story. DM me on Instagram at Megan the Morning Podcast with whether or not you think this curse is real, or is it all just folklore to make the movie seem a little scarier? And then I'll catch you next Wednesday for a celebrity deep dive.